many games I can think of that have so little to talk about when it comes to the actual gameplay than B.C Bill. I mean, there's a couple of wrinkles in the instructions to make it stand out, but what it boils down to is this. Move, club, move, continue. Your goal here is described directly in the inlay, and this can be best described as...
things you'd only find in a game in the 80s.
At the dawn of time, when men were chauvinists and women let them get away with it. Okay, pause there. I'm not sure they let them get away with it exactly. They didn't really have any choice in the matter. Anyway, B.C. Bill ruled his domain with a club of wood. After leaving his tribe to seek his fortune, Bill has found himself a comfy cave in a desirable area and decided to start his own dynasty. The first thing he needs are a few wives. And prehistoric courtship being pretty basic, this doesn't prove very difficult. Every time an unsuspecting lady wanders into his territory, Bill simply runs up behind her, and then it's a clout on the head with his club, and a quick drag by the hair back to his cave.
We don't have a man with her qualifications. Seriously, Brad. If you treat her right, she might make you a darn good employee.
What do you mean, treat her right?
Get that chip off your shoulder. What's wrong with her?
She's a woman, isn't she?
Now, wait a minute. You got a lot of...
One of the problems with accumulating wives is feeding them. So before long, Bill is running around clubbing down food. And if that's not bad enough, being a model husband invariably leads to children. Oh, God, please make it stop.
The homemaker walks miles every day, from sink to icebox, from cupboard to stove, and from kitchen to dining table. Let's use some very special photography to compress the whole job of preparing a meal into a few seconds of time, to see how many steps it really takes to get dinner on the table.
And once they start arriving, Bill's family feeding problems become more and more difficult. You'll be able to watch the seasons change, and if Bill has kept his wives well fed and happy, they will each produce one offspring at regular intervals. The fight for survival gets tougher and tougher as the seasons change and the tribe grows. With so many people and so much food around, it's hardly surprising that the predatory flesh-eating variety of dinosaurs are attracted to Bill's clearing. Not only do they steal his food, but will kill anyone who is not safely tucked away in the cave. Before long, his little kingdom is overflowing with wives, kids, food and dinosaurs, and Bill is having a frantic time trying to keep things organised. In fact, many historians believe that Bill was the first human to suffer from ulcers. Yes, because Bill is the one being hard done by here. Bill is the victim. Jesus fucking Christ. Once you get to grips with Bill and his way of life, you'll realise there's a lot to be said for female emancipation. I mean, Jesus wept. That's certainly one way to put a jovial spin on kidnap and rape. At least there are dinosaurs, right? That lightens the mood somewhat. I was curious to see if the storyline inspired revulsion in anyone else at the time. Crash Magazine stated, "The graphics of the women leave no doubt as to their gender. Enormous black blobs sit heavily on their chests, so that they resemble prehistoric versions of Dolly Parton's big sister." So that's fun. Though, to be fair to them, they did also say, B.C. Bill will probably cause some furore or other, as it is a game of sexism, sex, and violence. That's kind of it. I don't think it did, truthfully. It didn't cause a furore, but we did get two fantastic quotes from Personal Computer Games magazine. I really like the intro music, very impressive for a Spectrum, but control of Bill is extremely tricky. I also have serious doubts about the lasting interest. There's quite a lot to do, but it all happens on a single screen. As for the morals of the game, they're disgraceful. You go around clubbing women over the head and then drag them off to your cave, knowing that it's only a matter of time before they starve. Might appeal to a simple-minded male chauvinist pig. Chris Anderson. No comment. Samantha Hemmons. Now, you may well be thinking to yourselves, come on, RTS, this was a game from the 80s, you can't hold it to today's standards. This is PC gone mad. Stop being such a cuck soy boy snowflake. And if you are thinking that, well, first of all, lol. But second of all, you're mistaking me for somebody who actually gives a fuck. You see, the concept of B.C Bill is pretty deplorable, but it's also a relic of its age. It comes from a time when men were men and children didn't deserve milk in schools. It comes from a time when casual misogyny was leading its way towards the lads era of the 90s that I grew up in. None of this is new to me, and none of it is new to the world in general. People will also react in two completely different ways to stuff like this, and while the storyline attached to the game is pretty grim when you spend a few seconds to think about it, it doesn't really affect anything. It's interesting to see, though, that even back in the 80s, when this kind of thing was apparently more commonplace, there were still people out there who would look at something like this and go, fucking hell mate, that's a bit much. There's a reason that there's often a furore nowadays over games being overtly sexist, and there's a reason no one makes plotlines that sound like prehistoric Fritzl fanfics. And it's not political correctness gone mad, it's this quote here. It's Samantha Hemmons. While it wasn't strictly true even back in the day, and some would even argue the point now, regardless of the fact gaming has flourished in its inclusivity, games were often seen as a strictly male hobby. The odd woman would wander onto the scene and say that she likes games, but of course that was merely a lie, because women are literally only looking to either make sex or money, and pretending to like games for the majority of their life is definitely the easiest way to do that. You make a game like B.C Bill in a period where you think your audience is mostly boys. That's the big difference here, because you're not gouging 50% of your potential audience by making a game in which you smash them over the head and inject them with your filthy seed. You're making games for the lads era. It's hard to find the inherently testosteronific content on display here as anything other than a laughable boys club. Whether that's a really good thing or intensely abhorrent is beside the point. Things that were morally incomprehensible to someone now shouldn't be lost to time because they are tonally out of sync with how we make things now. None of this particularly matters, however, because B.C Bill is boring as shite. My overall point here is that I needed something to fill out a review, because talking about what B.C Bill is, rather than what it does, is far more interesting than anything the game has to offer. Move, club, move, continue, over and over again until you lose. Here's a high score, congratulations. You collect women, they shit out kids, you collect food to feed your women, you avoid dinosaurs, or if you want to just get this thing over with, aim directly for them. Over and over and over again. It handles fine, there's some nice graphical touches, but in terms of depth, it's about as shallow as a puddle of dirty, filthy man semen. Maybe it's strangely fitting that a game about cavemen with Neanderthal sentiments requires roughly the same thought capacity as its protagonist to enjoy for more than 10 minutes.